And we are going to go ahead and bring up our interview with Joe from the Queers. Joe Queer, are you there, man?
Yes, I am.
Oh, great. Better late than never. Thanks for being here. We appreciate it, man.
I thought about the interview first thing this morning, and then went all through my day, and then I got going in I've got a studio here at my house, and about an hour ago, I got busy doing that and completely spaced it. I was like, I couldn't believe it.
Oh, it's okay.
So anyway, I'm glad we caught each other. So
yeah, if you could just do me one favor, the FCC asks that we don't use any cuss words on the air. That's about it, though.
Oh, no worries.
Thank you, man. So how was your recording? You said you were in the studio. What were you doing there tonight?
We're working on a tribute. There's a tribute album to a great Norwegian band, pals of ours, called the Yum Yums. So they asked us to do their song "Be My Baby," and we're working on that.
Nice. Is that the Ronettes version, or is it a different song?
It's a different song, same title. Yeah, that was my first question when I saw it on their album a few years ago. But yeah, it's a different one. Nice,
man. And I just learned a couple of friends of mine in Wisconsin got a hold of me today. We're based in Ashland, Oregon, but we have a lot of national listeners. A lot of big fans of the Queers in the Midwest, and they were telling me that you guys were on the soundtrack for the. I got it right here, man. The Wipeout. Your cover of Wipeout was featured in the 2007 Columbia Pictures film Surf's Up.
Right.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was just a weird thing that it was a throw-off. We were doing another session, and we hit Dusty Watson, who used to drum for years for Dick Dale, and he's just a surf drummer extraordinaire. He was there on that session, so just to warm up that day, we said, let's do Wipeout, Dusty, warm up. And then we didn't even tune. We had just showed up, grabbed an espresso, and then said, let's just do that. And the engineer's like, should I record it? We're like, yeah, go ahead, record it. And then that ended up somehow on that Surf's Up soundtrack. It's kind of a weird thing.
Well, I just hope you got some nice royalty checks.
Not as much, unfortunately, because it wasn't not that much because it wasn't our song, but it was still, we each made a few $100, so we were psyched about that,
Yeah, you were paid for your work,
That's right, yeah.
And for those who don't know, you come out of Portsmouth, New Hampshire area, and I wonder if you were friends with or ran across my old friend Gigi Allen much back in the day.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. I knew Gigi quite well. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I knew him from about '83 until he died. But I just didn't know you guys are both from the New Hampshire area, so I just didn't know if you guys were friends or if you ran into each other, or how that worked out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, back then in New Hampshire, he's a little older than me, and so, yeah, we ran into each other. He was always looking for musicians. He was always advertising for musicians, Gigi and the Jabbers. So that's how I met him, and then we ended up playing together. We were kind of starting a band where he was the drummer, I was a guitar player, and we played with a bass player, and Don was his name. And so, yeah, I knew Gigi quite well. Oh, yeah.
And he was a really good drummer, too, man. I actually got to jam with him before, and I was really impressed by his drumming skills.
I know. I tell that to people, and you're the first person, I think, that said that. Nobody knows that. He was an excellent drummer, and he was he was like Keith Moon a lot. That was his favorite drummer, he told me. And he was an excellent drummer. And, we practiced maybe, 10, 12 times, and then we lived down at the seacoast of New Hampshire, and he lived in Manchester, and it was just logistically kind of tough at the time. So that band never got off the ground. But yeah, he was the drummer. He was great. Yeah, he was fun to play with. Of course, Gigi, he's known for being kind of some wacko, crazy guy, but I knew him, and you probably knew him the same way, as an aficionado of great music. He loved bubblegum music, the Ramones, of course.
Jerry Lee Lewis.
He loved Del Shannon and the Turtles and all that stuff, that bubblegum stuff, and that's where we really got along because of the music, the Rolling Stones and all that stuff. Yeah, he loved all that.
By the way, I'm sitting here with my co-host and co-producer of the show, Sister Tracy. By the way, she's got some questions for you as well.
Hey, Joe, how are ya?
Hi.
How are you doing?
Good.
First of all, I have a question. I was doing a little reading about you just in the last, couple weeks or so, kind of trying to do some homework. And I noticed that the Queers kind of tour relentlessly. You guys average like I don't know, something like what, 100 and like 20, 30, 140 shows a year for the past 3 years?
The last few years, yes, that's true.
I mean, like holy, like holy whatever I'm allowed to say on the air. That's crazy. I mean, are you going to maintain that pace in 2018? Are you gonna pull that off?
We're probably not going to hit that many shows this year. The last few years it was weird. Like we got a new booking agent. And because the last one previous to this one said, oh, we were touring too much. And I was like, man, we're not touring much at all. And so we kind of made up for, we had a few years where we didn't tour quite as much. So anyway, I don't know. I'll be honest with you, we really don't go out looking for tours, believe it or not. Like a lot of this stuff falls in our lap. Last summer, Real Big Fish asked us to go out for 5 weeks. So there was 5 weeks we're going to be sitting on our butts, and then we ended up touring. So it's just, it all just comes down to word of mouth, and people ask us to go out, and, it's how we pay the bills. So we tour a lot. I don't know. I'm hoping it keeps up, but who knows?
Well, yeah, and, I think the energy that you guys bring to shows, that you bring on stage, you bring to the crowd, and people really look forward to seeing you. I know, especially out on the West Coast. Yeah, if you're going to be doing like West Coast tours, by all means, keep us posted, because we'd like to have you back for another interview to let people know where and when you're going to be out here and how they can find you.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. Yeah. I don't know what our plan is now. It's funny playing music because we're already in next year, and which is weird, but I think we'll be heading out that way around. It's looking like February, so but we'll see. But anyway, yeah, I'll hit you guys up for sure. Ashland, a real good friend of mine. Moved out there, an older gentleman from Massachusetts, Joe Donovan, and he lived in Ashland.
Oh, okay.
He moved out from the Boston area, and so for a few years till he passed, we would always stop in Ashland to see him and his family. So
Boston to
Ashland.
Yeah, Boston to Ashland. That's like that's night and day.
It kind of is, and yeah, it was always Joe. Always looked forward to the visits. He was out there living with his daughter and her family, but we just, I got to tell you, I love the country there. I'm from New Hampshire, and so I just love it out there. I wouldn't skip a beat if I moved out there to Ashland. I love it down there. Yeah,
the nature is something else, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm a New Hampshire boy, and that's what I grew up with, that type of vibe out there you guys got going on. It's super cool. You keep the cities. I like them, but I moved to Ashland in a heartbeat.
Amen, brother. That's exactly our deal. We like going out on the road and doing music and stuff and traveling, but we like to have a little place here it's a city, but it's really not. It's more in the mountains, It's that kind of quiet vibe. So it's a good balance,
And it's close to everything, too. I mean, really, for a band, a band like us that jumps in the van and drives everywhere, boogie up to Portland or Seattle, Vancouver.
Down to San Francisco.
San Fran or whatever.
Yeah, for sure, man. How did you guys come up with your logo back in the day, the Queers logo?
The Queers logo?
Yeah, I mean, you got something that's very similar to the Ramones.
Oh, some pal of a pal. A friend of ours came up with the actual logo. A friend of ours came up with. Yeah, and honestly, I can't remember. We've got a couple of them that we've used through the years. So one thing, the Ramones. I was friends with Joey Ramone. I know Richie and CJ now. Marky, I played guitar for Marky. But anyway, one thing Joey told me when we were starting out, we opened up for them a few times.
No, that's very cool.
He said when you get your album, always do like the Ramones. They would have their name emblazoned on the top of their album, so it was like really, really big. So you didn't have to look for the name of the band, and so we always tried to do that with the Queers.
Yeah, that's a very smart piece of advice. It really is, because there's so many bands, and it's just easy to get buried in the record bins,
Yeah, that was totally true. There's a million bands now. There wasn't back then, but you're right. So, some of the messages I learned. See, I'm from New Hampshire, so I was always insecure, and I was never some cool New York City type guy. I got a little more hip as time went on, but I would listen to Joey, stuff like that he would tell me. One thing he told me that I always stuck with us is we opened up for the Ramones way back in the day when Richie was drumming for them. Anyway, there was 4,000 people there in this place in Hartford, Connecticut, and we had never played in front of 400, never mind 4,000. Wow. So we didn't know how to open up for a band. We had never toured then. We didn't know how to open up shows. So Joey told me, he said, dude, when you're opening up for bands, play your best stuff for 22 minutes and just play your best stuff and get off stage. And the fans will appreciate it, and the club will appreciate it, and the sound guys will appreciate it. And so I never forgot that little bit of wisdom, and I always try to tell that to bands because we played about an hour and a half. We didn't know what was going on. But, I still see it to this day, opening bands playing too long. So I always tell them my Joey Ramone story. So.
No, that's really, seriously, coming from one of the godfathers of punk rock, you can't take that with anything. You have to take that with, it's a great chunk of wisdom.
Well, the other thing, he would say, hey, let's face it, most bands only have maybe one or two songs that are any good anyway. So, anything over 20 minutes, forget it. They've worn out their welcome. So
forget about it.
That's right. Yeah.
That's funny.
So, Joe, I had a question, and I don't want to get, because we don't have a lot of time, so I don't want to get real like political or anything. But
no worries.
The climate today is precarious to say the least. The political climate, there's a lot of, people are so kind of divided, and I know that your band name probably has caused you, I know it has caused you some problems over the years. I'm wondering, since the last election, the last big presidential election that we had, have you found that the things that have kind of amped up a little bit with that, or do you catch much slack? Are you asked about that very often? Has it caused you more problems? Is it?
Yes. Before it was from rednecks attacking us because they thought we were gay.
Let me guess. Now it's the alt left.
And now it's the alt left who. Now, we did nothing for years but get attacked by Nazis and fight them and denounce them. And the next thing, last year, Joe Queer's a Nazi. It's like,
oh, man.
Where were you when I was getting jumped by Nazi skinheads back in '93 in Hartford, Connecticut, because of my band name? It's just virtue signaling, and it's pretty pathetic because it seems like these days nobody gets the joke, or I think they get the joke, but they refuse to acknowledge it now.
Oh, dude,
so if you say anything that could be misconstrued as racist or whatever, then boom, you're the enemy.
Yeah,
so
they've lost their sense of humor. I mean, used to be bands like, whatever, what comes to mind, the Dead Kennedys,
sure. Circle Jerk. Yeah. Those guys.
It's like everyone's lost their sense of humor. And everyone's just kind of lost their minds.
I totally couldn't agree more. And it's like there's nobody has a sense of humor anymore. We are in a band called the Tweeters, and
hello,
released from the White House if we say something wrong,
Right. Another question, not to just go off topic, but another question I always like to ask, the people that we interview. I know you've made a career out of music, out of punk rock. If you could go back, say, whatever, how many years back to your, late teens, early 20s, and you went to something completely different other than music, whatever it may be, what would you go into? What would you be interested in? What would you be doing if you weren't doing music?
Well, before, when we got signed to Lookout, Green Day was still there. I owned a restaurant. I was chef owner. I had finally, worked in kitchens for years, and then finally got it together where I bought my own little cafe. And so, that's what I had planned on doing with my life. I was going to be chef owner. I was about to buy another restaurant, and
Nice.
that's what I was going to do with my life. I really liked it. It was creative, and I loved it. And that's probably what I would have done if I didn't do music.
That's interesting. I'm always interested to see what people are going to say, because most people that have been in music for, decades, they don't really ever give that much thought. And a chef, I get totally creative, career
the
to go
only
into.
other thing that I ended up going into, we had the band together, we're going good, and then Hugh, my drummer, got a brain tumor and died, and B-Face, the other guy that started the group with me, was in the group at the time. We were fighting, and so anyway, I took a break, and I ended up working commercial fishing for my brother, who's a captain. He owns his own fishing boat back in Gloucester, Massachusetts, and Portsmouth, New Hampshire, Portland, Maine, over there in the east near Boston, really. And anyway, I did end up doing that, and I thought about getting a boat, maybe being a captain after I did that. But that was after I had done the band for a while.
Now that'd be cool. I get seasick. Wouldn't be cool for me, but it'd be cool for you.
It was, yeah, I mean, he still does it. I live in Atlanta now. Well, Marietta just went to the city. Other than that, I'd be working on the fishing boat probably right now with him. Honestly, I really liked it. It was a great departure from music. And so I like that because, you're like, I'd be 1 week over in Europe on tour. Like when Marky Ramone, some of those shows were super big, like 30,000 people. That was in South America. But anyway, I remember thinking about 6 days later, after I played in front of 30,000 people, I was on the fishing boat 100 miles offshore in some storm, busted my ass. And so it was like a real good, it kept my feet on the ground kind of working on the fishing boat. You can't act like a rock star out there at all, man.
Right.
You'll get your ass beat.
Right. Well, keeps you grounded, like you said, man.
Yeah.
Well, hey, man, we really appreciate you taking the time, being over in Atlanta and calling over here to Oregon and being on the show tonight. We appreciate it. Better late than never, too.
We know you're busy in the studio, so we really appreciate you taking the time out. And absolutely, I know you're going to forget about us before February, so we're gonna remind you somehow to.
No problem. Text me or whatever. Hit me up anytime. And I've got another good pal. My friend Tammy lives right there in Ashland too. She lives in Talent. Isn't Talent right next door, right? Tallent.
Dude,
sure
like
is.
3 miles up the road. Seriously.
Yeah, she lives in Talent. So anyway, she's another good buddy. So I would love to come by and see you guys. I'm serious.
That'd be
Let's
great.
keep in touch.
We will keep in touch. We're going to go ahead and lead out with the Queers version of Wipeout. Thanks again, Joe Queer. We salute you.
Okay, thanks, you guys. Take care. Good talking to you.
Yeah, you too. Thanks so much, man.
Joe.